Oh, hi there. So in this video, we're going to do some practice with showing what it looks like when governments intervene into markets with price floors, price ceilings, quotas. I think there's a tax question, all of the above. Let's get started. So the first problem says we've got Canada and wheat, $10 a barrel. Our bushel world market price is 20 a bushel. We've got here price and quantity, world price, quantity supplied by producers if Canada engages in free trade with the world. And so here, this one's actually kind of I think is an interesting question. We'll see. We have demand, we have supply, and then we have a market price of 10, and then we have a world price way up here of 20. And so what we want to do, right, it says correctly labeled graph, Canada's wheat market, equilibrium price and quantity, and we want QM here, the world price of a bushel of wheat, which we labeled WP, and the quantity supplied by domestic producers if Canada engages in free trade with the world. And so really, we already know that in the absence of trade with the world, they're going to trade at $10 in QM. And we have a world price that's actually above what the equilibrium is. So it's cheap to buy your wheat in Canada. Now, if the domestic producers were engaging in free trade with the world, well, free trade with the world would mean they'd get $20 for their goods and services. And so we would actually mark that way up here as quantity supplied. How much the consumers are going to buy from really the rest of the world is zero, because they're not going to spend $10. Or they're not going to spend $20. They're going to buy all that they can here up to 10. And so the actual number of transactions will be QS, and the amount that's exported is actually going to be ending up from here, from QD over to QS. So we have exports that we can label here on this, because this economy is exporting in that sense. So it's actually going to lead to even less that the consumers will consume as a result of trading. It didn't ask us for that part. It really just wanted to know what would happen to the quantity that the producers are able to sell. So we're going to actually export lots and lots of stuff, and it's going to raise the price that the consumers pay. So free trade might actually raise the prices of goods and services in an economy. Realistically, it's not necessarily always going to do that in the real world, but that's what we're going to take a look at with this picture. Number two, the government is considering an intervention with this market if there's a price floor at 16, 12, 14, 16. A price floor, well, a floor needs to actually be above the equilibrium to be effective, and it's not, so neither. And we can say because the PF at $16 is less than P star, which is at what, 20? Yeah, P star of 20. And that's enough to say that this is a non-binding price floor. Price ceiling at 12, though, that's below the equilibrium. That's going to have an effect. And let me kind of see here. It's going to create actually from 12 to, what's that number, 24? And so we've got quantity demanded 24, quantity supplied 12. That's telling me that we have a shortage. Right? We have a greater quantity demanded than quantity supplied. So that's because the QD of 24, and I'm going to say at $12, is greater than the quantity supplied of 12 at $12. And that's what I'm really saying here is I'm comparing these two values, right? If instead it restricts the market output to 10 units, what's the price paid by consumers? So here is our 10, and that's going to intercept the demand curve way up here at $40. So that's our correct answer, $40. Question 3, assume the market for vape pens in Missouri is in equilibrium. With an equilibrium price $20 a pen. Draw a correctly labeled graph and assume that there's a tax on pens, and show what happens here. It gives you prices and things like that. So let's go ahead and put first our labeling out demand and supply. And it says that the equilibrium was at 20, but that they put a $2 per unit tax in. And it also tells us to use Q sub M for the market. So that's going to cause this supply curve to be up here. And I'm going to label it S tax. And it's like +2, right? It's a $2 tax that's kind of shifting this curve up or to the left. It's a decrease. Now, it tells us that the new market price is 21. And you might initially be like, well, what? Why didn't it go up to 22? Well, that's because it go down from that 21 at the same quantity. That is going to be 19 that's going to be actually how much the sellers get to keep, right? So the tax here is actually being split. The burden of the tax is being split by both the buyers and the sellers. It's an equal amount that both of them are paying, $1 of the tax. And that's because of the angle of the supply and demand curves. Again, if one of them was vertical or something or horizontal, you'd end up with a different answer. But here, because the price didn't go up by the $2, I know that actually if the price went up by only $1, then I know that the sellers post-tax price received by the sellers is 19, right? Because the tax is 2, so 21 minus 2 is 19. And I can label the new equilibrium quantity QT. Yeah, QT, you're a cutie. We can label it here, right? So it decreases the quantity, and it kind of, the way that economics, we refer to this is it drives a wedge. It's like a wedge in between this price. This is the buyer price, right? That's the 21, and the seller price is the 19, and the wedge is the tax. Now let's take a look at number 4. Assume instead that they impose an effective price floor at $21. So they're trying to do the same thing, right? They're saying we want to make there to be less quantity of vaping going on in this market. And so the first one, we reduced the quantity of vaping by putting in a per unit tax. We said, let's tax these things. Sometimes that's why governments do stuff, is to reduce the quantity of transactions. Let's say in this one, they said, no, let's just do a price floor. And so we still had $20, and now we have a price floor at 21. Well, now it says, including pre-floor equilibrium and QM is the old, so it's really the exact same, but just a new price floor. The quantity of vape pens bought after the floor. And that's going to be the quantity demanded right there, and indicate whether a shortage or a surplus exists. Well, because the quantity demanded is smaller than the quantity supplied, we know that there's going to be a surplus. And it's, by the way, it's probably more conventional to put that little bracket right down here rather than to put it inside of the graph as I've done right here. So probably best to get in the habit maybe of putting it down here, because what it really is saying the quantity supplied is bigger than the quantity demanded. This is still accomplishing the goal, right, which is reducing the number of transactions, because there aren't as many people who want to buy it. All right, so hopefully this helps you with some practice with government interventions. I'll see you next time.